All right, y'all, we're going live. Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
That's what he said. Yeah, that's what he said. So it was a plan.
Glad to have everybody in the room. Welcome, welcome. If you are here in person or watching this live, you have found Thursday, July 18th, 2019, and it is 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm glad to have everyone here for this special called session. We have just a couple items on the agenda tonight, as well as a very brief executive session following the public meeting. We're going to go ahead and begin with Clerk Spratlin calling the roll.
Davenport. Here. Parker.
Here.
Link.
Here.
Wright.
Present.
Denson.
Here.
Naismith.
Present.
Edwards.
Here.
Harrod.
Present.
Thornton.
Here.
Hamby.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, fantastic. We have a quorum. Might be the first time in a few weeks that everybody's been here all on the same day. So glad to have everybody here. Glad to have everyone here in the chamber and everybody who may be watching at accgov.com or online or on Charter Channel 180. As is often the case, we have opportunity for public input tonight. Every member of the public will have 3 minutes. Please, if you come to the mic, I'd ask that you provide your name and address and give us your comments. When you have 30 seconds remaining, the light that you see in front of you will turn yellow. When you have no time, it will turn red, and I will thank you for your time here with us. So I know we've got a lot of folks in the audience, so if you line up at the mic, that may be the best way to get this rolling. And so I see Carol coming, and Mayor O'Leary knows the drill, so welcome this evening.
I figure I'd get up here first and then focus on listening. Oh. Good listeners.
Walk over here.
All right, I think we're assembled. All right, Dr. Myers.
Okay. Am I ready for my 2 minutes? I'm only going to take 2 minutes. Carol Myers, 260 Spalding Circle. As a member of the steering committee for 100% Athens, I'm speaking in support of Commissioner Parker's commission-defined option for Project 11, the Renewable Energy Project, to increase the project funding by $1.5 million. This additional funding will keep us on track to reach our renewable energy goals by 2035. Office of Sustainability Director Andrew Saunders has calculated that to reach that goal, the city needs to be investing $1.5 million per year. With the addition of an extra year of SPLOST, the increased funding in Commissioner Parker's CDO will keep us on track for meeting our green energy goal. Let me also remind those listening behind the rail, in the benches, in the line behind me, and viewing on television, that this project has not only a noble goal, but a pragmatic one. Andrew Saunders has also calculated the savings that will be reaped by the city with an investment in renewable energy, and that number is $1,102,000 per year. The operating costs for this project are negative. Paul Kramer brags about the amount of money that a Classic Center Arena project will bring to the community. I want to brag about the savings to our budget that the renewable energy project will bring. Over the course of SPLOST 2020, Project 11 would save the county $12,122,000 in utility and other energy costs. That's over $12 million that will be available to cover other general budget costs for the county, perhaps to help staff the new East Side Library. Of course, the real reason that I personally am devoting so much energy and passion into the 100% resolution and SPLOST project is because of my concerns about the future of the planet we live on. Tomorrow is the due date for my first grandchild. That baby will be an 81-year-old in the year 2100, with children and grandchildren of his or her own. I don't need to list all the global effects expected in future years from climate change. I expect that most people in the audience tonight do not question the reality of climate change and know in their hearts that things are going to get increasingly dire in coming years. I want to be able to meet that newborn when I travel overseas to meet him or her, believing that I and the community I live in are doing something to address the climate crisis that we humans have created. Thank you.
Thank you much, Ms. Myers.
Gwen Looney, 626 Cobb Street. And I'm here to speak for Project 3. And the reason I'm here is because I realize when I was listening to you on YouTube, I realized how much history is represented in this project that many of you may not know. And it's amazing to me that most of you have been here only for 6 months and you have had so much on you, so much. The SPLOST is just a huge thing, but the timing is challenging for all of you. But I want to say this. I want to say that the Athens Downtown Development Authority, City Hall, Classic Center, all of the people that I've been working with in and out for 30 years have been talking about this arena for that period of time. And you say, how come it wasn't called an arena? It wasn't. It was called a large venue, entertainment and sports venue near downtown. And it was in just about every single master plan. It was an amphitheater. Then it morphed into an amphitheater with a large shell because we recognized how many of our events happened during the seasons with water. And then in its last morph, it's become an arena, partly because of the sensitivity to two other amphitheaters being planned in the area, the information related to the fact that the Coliseum could be rented almost twice as much each year, just with private events. A number of pieces came together to make the arena the most appropriate. You know, we tried to rent the garden space behind the fire hall for years, and then the SPLOST enclosed that garden space, and we have the atrium, a premier Athens event. What it is weather, and people are not as. But this takes away all of any limitations whatsoever, any barriers whatsoever to us filling that arena with all kinds of events that can make a lot of difference in Athens, not only as a destination, but also as a recipient of SPLOST and other things. Look at what the Classic Center has already done for us. This is an organic space. I was listening to Ms. Link's CDO, and it says so many of the things that are the goals of people like Jack Crowley, who have worked so hard for this. I want to say that the private investment has come, and it's a surprise to many, but those people have been looking for us for a while. We have a huge retirement community. We have lots of reasons. I see my light. I want to say, if you vote for the CDO, any of the CDOs tonight, that's great. But when it comes to the vote for this 2020 SPLOST, I hope that you will all show the unity and the support that is appropriate for a package that brings this much to Athens. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Looney.
Good evening. Mark Woods, 515 Tallahassee Road, that's District 6. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, staff, thank you for being here tonight. I have worked in the live performance entertainment industry in Athens since my first sound engineering gig at Hoyt Street Station in 1993. I've had the pleasure and challenge of serving as technical director for the Classic Center for almost 13 years now, overseeing the union stagehands that provide the local labor required to run the theater and the technically complex shows and events the Classic Center hosts throughout the facility. I believe that Athens is on the cusp of actually achieving the status of regional entertainment attraction hub, a story we have told ourselves and the world since the 80s, but one that is thus far centered around the bars and clubs and the relatively small audience capacities and stature of artists that they are capable of economically and technically hosting. We now, with this SPLOST and the Classic Center Arena project currently on it, have the opportunity to step into the big leagues and for the first time have a venue in our town capable of producing national entertainment events. But there's much more to this story than the entertainment that our community will be able to experience. I find that the most satisfying part of my job at the Classic Center is not about the concerts or Broadway shows or the conventions or the productions that we put on. It is the people I work with, the people that I work with to make these events happen, and the impact upon their lives that this employment has, economically, certainly, but beyond that, to the skills that I have seen them acquire and the professional and personal growth I have seen them achieve. The jobs that the Classic Center creates, my own among them, are relatively high-paying jobs in this market. I refer here not just to the full-time staff, but also to the as-needed hourly workers we employ when we have large events to produce. The numbers of these workers can range from 4 department heads for a graduation, to 18 for a typical rock concert, to over 60 at a time for a Broadway show. It is my opinion that the Arena project will create a significant expansion of the employment opportunities in this sector, from entry-level positions such as truck loaders to skilled technicians in audio, lighting, video, rigging, and other disciplines, to the support and management staff working behind those who work behind the scenes. It is my opinion that the Arena will be a complement to, and not in competition with, the privately funded outdoor amphitheater currently under construction on 441, with the significant advantage in planned infrastructure, equipment, and personnel over any other venue in town, and with the resulting capability to produce many types of events, most of which will not be possible unless this arena is built. I therefore support and encourage all of you to continue to include the Arena project on this ballot. And just in the style of Steve Jobs, there is one more thing. I live on Tallahassee Road. My house will most likely be in the path of the proposed multi-use pathway out to the forest. I fully support it. I would generously donate my trees, my privacy part of my yard to see that come through. Thank you for including it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Woods.
Good evening. My name is Ricardo Smith, 232 Bridges Drive. I am a local pastor. I pastor in a neighboring county. 55% of our congregation actually drives in from the Athens area to Oconee County for worship. And I'm here to speak in favor of the Classic Center's Arena, primarily for 2 reasons. As a local pastor, I know the difficulty it is for people to find work, especially when they are underemployed or unemployed, and the fact that the Classic Center plans to offer living wages to those who will be employed is something that I know that will be a benefit to our congregation. In speaking with Paul Kramer and other representatives from the Classic Center, they've made a commitment to diversity to make sure that employment looks like Athens, and that is something I'm in favor of. But not only as a local pastor, I'm also a conference host as well. I'm the host of the Classic City Conference. The Classic City Conference is geared towards senior pastors and leadership teams about community activism. We were actually fortunate enough when we launched on last year to have at the time our mayor-elect to come and greet us for our first session. We had 74 local pastors there, a part of that. We want to expand to be able to offer it to leadership teams in our congregations as well. And the Arena is moving in the direction in which we're looking to expand to. In addition to us, not just only the conference that I lead, but there are also some major conferences such as the MOVE conference that the Georgia Baptist Convention puts on that no longer comes to Athens because we don't have the space to accommodate all of the thousands of teenagers that want to be a part of that. In addition to that, the North Georgia United Methodist Group comes here on a regular basis, and they're busting at the seams at their current locations at the Classic Center. And so having an arena to house not just the conference that I host, but also to house all of the different faith organizations that would love to come to Athens to meet would be a huge plus for us in our community. I'm also a board member with the interfaith clergy here in metropolitan Athens, and because of that, speaking as a representative of the faith community, not just my own tradition, but any traditions, I believe that this arena will be a huge plus for us in this community. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
My name is Marvin Nunnally. I reside at 106 Marsh Street in Watkinsville, Georgia. But yet tonight I want to share with you I'm an employee in sales management with the Classic Center. I can tell you right now, the impact of what the Classic Center does, what it can do, and what it will do with your assistance tonight as you vote favorably for the SPLOST package here, including the arena. I have personally seen in my years at the Classic Center an opportunity for a number of different groups that come to Athens, Georgia. Youth, middle-aged, business folks, but more importantly also the faith community. I work primarily with the faith community. And just having an opportunity to work with the General Missionary Baptist Convention of Georgia, having an opportunity to work with the United Methodists of North Georgia, having an opportunity to work with the AME, the 6th District, who's now booking their bishop's retirement here in Athens, Georgia, with some 2,500 delegates. Most recently, Prince Hall Masons came to Athens, Georgia for their 6th time in the last 10 years. We're in the process right now of negotiating with them a multi-year, 3 to 5 year contract with them as they come to Athens and want to come back to Athens, Georgia. But more importantly, the trickle-down effect of other concordant bodies within the Prince Hall, the Herrings of Jericho, the Knights of Pythagoras, and other groups like that, the Grand Council of Worshipful Masters, the Grand Council of Grand Worthy Matrons, they all want to come to Athens. Most recently, a couple of weeks ago, we had some 13, 15 states that were here for that particular conference, and they were all impressed with what they saw, the hospitality, the professionalism here at the Classic Center. And folks, those 2,500 delegates spent an entire week in our hotels, an entire week of going to our restaurants, an entire week of going out to the Georgia Square Mall, an entire week of going to the boutiques downtown Athens. Outsiders making an impact. Let me go a step further, if I may. The employability of living wage and so forth. Here's an opportunity for that mom who has to walk to work from Bethel home, that mom who's over there in Rock Springs home, that unemployed father on the east side of Athens, Georgia, have an opportunity to get employment at one of these particular venues for the 602 jobs that it will have an opportunity to create. Here's an opportunity for people to pick themselves up by their own bootstraps and have an opportunity to come downtown Athens or go to the local hotels or maybe someplace who are employing or supplies goods and services to the Classic Center. Folks, here's an opportunity for you tonight to search your conscience. Here's an opportunity for you tonight to make an impact on the future of not only ourselves and the individuals in the Classic Center, but more importantly, for all those that will be affected by this particular vote, this positive vote tonight for the Classic Center Arena. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nunnally.
Hi. Ian Thomas, 645 Boulevard, chair of the Athens-Clarke County Library Board. You guys can kind of guess which thing I'm here for. This is project number 25, which is the proposed East Side Library branch. Just so I make sure I've got the numbers right. What we're at right now is the documentation we got last night was that it's currently standing at $13,726,000, and land acquisition has been added back into that budget. And this is from an original proposal of $16,166,000, which is what we sent initially. What I'm asking you to do here tonight is actually restore it to that initial amount. And there's a couple reasons for that. The East Side, as you guys know, has been pretty much traditionally underserved in these things, and we really think that this, in SPLOST and all in economic, money being sent out around Athens, and we think that this library branch will really be a giant step towards rectifying that. This is designed to support an entire part of Athens. It's not supporting one specific chunk. It's supporting the East Side branch of Athens, and since it's part of the library system of Athens, it's basically supporting all of us. Basically, it's an easy sell, is kind of what I'm saying, because everybody will benefit from this. I know I've given a lot of speeches on the economic, benefits of library branches, which don't tend to get a lot of play. But it is actually intended to be an anchor point for economic development in an area which really might be lacking it, and especially in the areas that we're looking at putting the branch. There are economic, anchor points in Athens all over the place. I mean, downtown is a giant one. And I'm not, of course, saying that we shouldn't look at those, but, how about giving a little bit of money to actually an anchor to get economic development in an area that really kind of needs it at this point? And this is actually, we think, really going to be not only an economic anchor point, but also a cultural one. I noticed when I came out here the last time, an early voting location. Excuse me, I'm going to knock the mic over. We're intending this as maybe an early voting location. Maybe, we talk about educating people for the future, adult education facilities. There are all kinds of things that this facility was designed when that initial proposal went in to meet. Now I realize, you can only squeeze a rock so many ways before things really, start going pear-shaped as far as money goes. And everybody wants a cut of SPLOST. But we really think that this is going to be something that will impact the entire community. It's a good use of money. It says a lot about our community values. It really does. What are the values of Athens? Do we value libraries, learning, things like that? We think that this proposal meets all of those. The library board, we've got friends of the library board, we've got all kinds of people that are already on board to help sell this specific facility. And the friends of the library board is all over the county. It's not basically clustered in one place. So, when we get our listserv going, we can really get a lot of people help. Sorry, I know I'm red there, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Good evening. My name is Laura Carter. I have lived on the east side since 1948 predominantly. I had a brief spell in downtown, but other than that, I'm pretty much an east sider. And I'm here to address the library. I began working for the Athens Regional Library System in 1974 at the building at 120 West Doherty. That building never functioned as it should have functioned because it was downsized from what it was supposed to do. It was funded with a bond referendum, and they moved into that building in 1970, and the bond was paid off after we moved into Baxter Street building in 1992. So SPLOST is definitely the way to fund this, but don't downsize it. When I'm also served on the Citizens Advisory Committee, and the library is one of the few projects that we heard no negative comments about. And libraries help sell SPLOST referendums, so it needs to be there, but please make sure that it actually functions. We have built many libraries and renovated libraries in our 5-county region since I began working there in 1974. I'm now retired, y'all, but anyway. But you need to understand, when we ask for a certain amount of money, it's because we know that's what it's going to take to have a functional building. The first iteration of the building on Baxter was a little smaller than it needed to be because they were worried about the intake of SPLOST and whether there was going to be enough money. So they downsized some things. We had to come back later and add to that. We also have to plan on this project that there is space for parking and that there is space for growth and expansion, because we have not built a branch or renovated a branch that did not need expansion. I'm going to brag. Our library system staff does a great job, and we increase library usership when we do what we're supposed to do. So I'm very concerned that this new proposal is a reduction, and the original proposal did not include land acquisition, and now you've added land acquisition to the project. And I'm concerned that we're going to build an east side branch that is never going to function the way it needs to function. So with that said, I will also thank y'all for extending the time for collection of the SPLOST funds, and I want to thank you for increasing the amount. I was thrilled with a lot of the projects, and I'm sure many others on the Citizens Advisory Committee were too, with the projects that got added to the list, because there were many we wanted to fund but could not because of the lack of funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carter.
Hello, my name is Erin Boydson. I live at 425 Meg Street, and I'm speaking in support of the library as well. And I'm really grateful you guys are considering it. I think it's sorely needed on the east side. And I am very respectfully requesting that you consider funding the project for the full amount so that it can be a full-service, digitally inclusive, environmentally sound building that will be able to grow with the community and serve all members of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Boydson.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone. I am Caitlin Short. I live at 170 Greencrest Drive. I'm here to speak on Project 56 regarding the Athens Welcome Center access improvements. Speaking as a longtime employee of the Welcome Center who works one-on-one with visitors on a daily basis, I do feel that the mayor and commission have made a wonderful decision in regards to adding us back to the list and approving funding for what is going to be such a wonderful and beneficial project. I truly believe that both visitors and local citizens will greatly benefit from these improvements. Frequently, we help visitors who are disoriented and on edge because they can't figure out where they are or where to go, and difficulty finding us and accessing the information we have to offer them only makes them more flustered. So with these improvements being made, these visitors will not experience an elevated level of stress, but rather an elevated level of comfort in knowing that they can easily access and obtain helpful information. Visitors with varying types of handicaps will be able to confidently and comfortably navigate our site, and myself and fellow staff members will no longer feel disheartened by the fact that the conditions at our site are so difficult for some visitors to navigate. The open and unused areas surrounding us can be transformed into something that can be accessed and enjoyed by everyone in Athens, and the list of positives really just goes on from there. So again, I am very grateful that we have an opportunity to make these things happen. The Welcome Center is considered to be the front door to Athens, and with these improvements being made, we will be able to meet a wider range of needs and make a better first impression. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Short.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sage Hooton, and I live at 197 Oglethorpe Avenue. I'm here tonight to comment on Project 56, the Athens Welcome Center access improvements. I'm a senior at the University of Georgia and recently began interning at the Welcome Center. I thank y'all for putting the project back on the funding list, and I would love to reiterate why this project is so vital to our community. The Welcome Center is the doorway to the city for many kinds of folks, especially those who are considering relocating to the area, most of whom are 60 plus in age. We need to update our facility to become ADA compliant so that we can serve a greater range of people and continue to help those looking to relocate. Most notably, by replacing the outdated lift at the back door and including signage directing visitors to that lift, making the parking areas and paths stable underfoot, and improving signage directing visitors to the Welcome Center in general and directly to our information once they've arrived. When I started there, I immediately noticed visitors were confused about where to find us, and once they arrived, they were quite disoriented. This is an issue that I advocate for so intensely because I myself am a disabled woman. So I know firsthand what it is like to be otherized in terms of ability. The funding for this project that you will vote on tonight will signal to visitors and locals alike that we are a community that welcomes and accepts people of all abilities, which is an extremely powerful statement. The small addition planned for the house itself will help the Welcome Center serve a larger number of visitors since our current information room is only big enough to host a few at a time. The historically accurate addition will help all Welcome Center staff and volunteers to do our jobs even better than we do now by being able to stock a larger variety of brochures and serve more people. Given all the overwhelming good that will come from this project, I hope you understand why I'm so passionate and looking forward to these improvements. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hooton.
Good evening, Mayor Gertz and ACC Commissioners. I'm Evelyn Reese, 118 East Church Street, Lexington. First, thank you for all the tremendous work you've done to get us through the SPLOST 2020 process to this point. Thank you for taking the calls and emails from local citizens, especially those who care about the way we host visitors in Athens. As director of the Welcome Center, I thank you for being responsive and reconsidering that our access improvements be funded by putting this project back on the list. If it were normal for visitors to contact local officials where they visit, I think you would have heard about 1,000 calls by now. We've done our best to capture and convey what visitors perceive and experience upon arriving to Athens through our Welcome Center, an Athens-Clarke County-owned facility. And if they could, I know our visitors would thank you too. Just recently, the state ADA architect visited the Welcome Center and confirmed what we knew, both inside and out, about our noncompliance with federal standards, the Americans with Disabilities Act. We've generally addressed these standards in the Coons Environmental Master Plan, but architect Steve Jones provided deeper technical assistance that will take this project to a new level. I want to thank ACC staff, Blaine Williams, David Flock, and Keith Sanders for being together with us for that site visit, which was both beneficial and informative. Once this project is complete, you will see how it fulfills so many of the SPLOST 2020 goals. While being tied to tourism, we've listed the project under economic development, but it is also about equity by making the Welcome Center accessible to people with mobility limitations. It is about the environment by creating urban green space and increasing opportunities for visitors and citizens to explore Athens by alternate modes of transportation. Envision Athens and the Transportation Master Plan want us all to focus on quality infrastructure nodes to make improvements where they will have impact. Our site is the crossroads of local citizens from all walks of life, from residents of Bethel Homes, Pulaski Heights, Boulevard, Cobham, restaurant and retail workers, tech company employees, lots of them, Docebo, in fact, people walking through the site to grab coffee or dinner all day long, all night long. It is also the crossroads for conventioneers and leisure travelers staying at our finest boutique hotels. For what is a relatively modest request, this project will have impact. I'll be reaching out to Clerk Spratlin's office to invite you one morning for coffee, for a visit to the Welcome Center, and to take a guided tour of Athens. I look forward to hosting you soon, not too soon, but when the temperature's a little cooler, of course. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Reese.
Hello, Commissioners and Mayor. My name is Skip Balcom. We reside at 1073 Mill Point in Jennings Mill. The reason that I'm in here is my interest in the Classic Center stems from past experiences. As president of Astrodome USA in Houston, Texas, and a liaison between the community and the team, we helped build the Major League Baseball stadium that opened in 2000 in Houston. With that, and in 2003, a new arena, the Toyota Arena, the basketball team moved from the west side of Houston to downtown. With Minute Maid Park and that, what happened? Downtown Houston has seen 26 new hotels open since then. 2 of those are over 1,000 plus hotel rooms. Downtown Houston has seen their downtown population expand by over 300% to 66,000 people. Where there were soaked up windows, boarded up buildings, Houston has transformed over 67% of all their block faces in downtown Houston. Parallels to Athens, Georgia. 2005, Classic Center goes in and does an expansion for all their breakout rooms. From 2005 to 2009, 639 hotel rooms have been added to Athens, Georgia. Classic 2010, Classic Center comes back in. They do another expansion. They expand their main ballroom. They enclose the atrium. What happens? 570 new hotel rooms are added to Athens, Georgia. 1,209 rooms. And as of this last month, for a year at $111 average daily rate, a 60% occupancy, and we use that at a 4% sales tax, since that's what you wonderful people receive. That's over $1.6 million a year. 10 years, that's $16 million. The Classic Center management has delivered on what they said they would do. What activities bring all of these, brings a whole social economic group together? From my perspective, I think there's 2 main things that does that: sports and music. Look what's happened in sports this past year, this past month, just with the women's team nationally. Look what we do with the Georgia Bulldogs here locally. Look what we do with other music venues that are currently taking place here. With the new phases of the Classic Center, And with the help of Oakview, they have committed 25 concerts to Athens, 55 sporting events, 10 family shows, 15 conventions. I think the future is very bright for a new arena.
Thank you, Mr. Bowd.
Thank you.
Evening, everybody. My name's Sean Butcher. My wife and 2-week-old daughter and I live at 462 Whitehead Road. I am here to speak in favor of the full funding of the proposed arena managed by the Classic Center. I'm a 13-year veteran of the hospitality industry in downtown Athens. For 12 years, I worked as a server, a bartender, eventually general manager of the Porterhouse Grill on Broad Street, and for the past year, I've worked in a more tangential role as a wine distributor. Throughout my adult life, my economic stability has hinged entirely on the amount and nature of the commerce in downtown Athens. And I'm simply one of thousands of service workers in our community. We hear an enormous amount of discussion about the revenue created or expended by projects like this one, but often the conversation centers around a more macro notion of economic impact. SPLOST dollars spent and tax revenue generated, economic activity produced. And I'd like to speak for a moment on the most microeconomic of concepts, and that's the individual. How does the Classic Center in general, and this project specifically, affect an individual that works in the service industry downtown? If we back up for a moment, let's talk about the fiscal life and well-being of a member of our industry. We are often living not just paycheck to paycheck, but shift to shift. One good night can change the course of our entire month. When there's an event at the Classic Center, we would staff accordingly, from an extra dishwasher to line cook, an extra hostess or bartender or server. One event at the Classic Center creates, quite plainly and quite instantly, more economic opportunity in our industry. An event at the Classic Center injects cash immediately into our lives. The crowds from one single event at the Classic Center pay the utility bills of hundreds of people in one night. One event at the Classic Center can pay a month's rent for hundreds of people. One event at the Classic Center quite literally improves the lives of hundreds of people. And this is just for one theater event or one small convention. Extrapolate those numbers to include more frequent and even larger events coming to an even more attractive and larger venue. Can you imagine the impact that it would have on each individual worker in the industry? And honestly, you don't have to, because I'm telling you, it changes our lives. The arena, beyond the obvious benefits of having a new facility in our community, would, in an ancillary way, improve the lives of thousands of people in the service industry immediately. The day that it opens, on day one, you make people's lives better. I would imagine that in government, the opportunity doesn't arrive every day to make an instant and positive impact on the lives of your constituents. This is one of those opportunities. So it is my fervent hope that you seize it, and I thank you very much for your work on this and everything else you do for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Butcher.
Thank you.
Carol Rayburn Cofer. I live at 1031 Fernwood Drive, Bogart, Georgia, but I'm here in my capacity as the Workforce Development Director with the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission. And we have had the pleasure of working with the Classic Center for over 15 years in workforce development activities. And we see the arena project as being a way to continue and increase that activity. We've had the opportunity to participate with the Hospitality Career Academy, which provides an opportunity for high school students to be exposed to the hospitality industry, and they have had quite the opportunity. In fact, tomorrow night is the 15th celebration of that at the Classic Center. The Classic Center has also fostered a GED program. I don't know if you knew that. In the mid-2000s, there was a GED program that they went after the funding because they saw there was a need for young people to have an opportunity to get that GED and then continue with their occupational skills development and then their ultimate employment. And most recently, we've been working with the Classic Center with the Bread for Life, Inc. Training program. This is a hospitality service industry industry training, and it's a 12-week program, and it's taking folks who have severe challenges, barriers towards their ability to be in the workplace. And the success rate, while is small in our first year working with them, but this is pretty amazing. They've had 9 people enroll, 8 people of those 9 got employment, but the big issue is all 8 of those people are working 6 months later. And when you take people with serious barriers to employment, it's that retention of the job. And so they're committed to finding what interventions are going to be appropriate, and so the opportunities could grow and will grow for them to have additional workforce development activities with the increased arena. Another area I want to speak on that's outside of workforce development in a direct fashion and the impact it'll have on lives of people here is in the conference planning area. I'm also associated with a group called the Southeastern Employment Training Association, SETA, and this is a professional development organization for the 8 southeastern states. And we have 2 conferences a year, and those conferences rotate to the state of Georgia every 4 years. And Athens has not been in contention because it did not have the facilities in place that would allow that to take place. With the adding of the hotel that's immediately adjacent, part of the solution has been solved, but this is a group of folks that, unlike the Methodists that will take over the whole town and be in 15 different hotels, this group wants to be right where their meetings are taking place. And so while the meeting space exists, the additional hotel space would also be something that would then be a draw and really put Athens in the opportunity to host this conference that has between 400 and 700 people when they do have those conferences. Actually, in September, we're going to be in Savannah, and in previous years, we've been in Atlanta because there's really no other place in Georgia that has the capacity to hold that type of a conference, and that's just one specific example. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cofer.
Hello. My name is A.Roll Brown. I'm currently a resident at 150 Sussex Drive in District 10, and I am also the chairwoman of the Libertarian Party of Athens. I'm here today to express my disagreement of the proposal to add the Classic Center Arena to the 2020 SPLOST budget. I feel that spending $34 million on an arena so close to downtown, where it's already congested as it is not a good investment, especially considering a private company is building a bigger one using a plot of land that's been left vacant for years and asks for no subsidies. The Classic Center Arena seems redundant at this point, not to mention Southern Brewing Company is also setting up plans to build one of their own. I understand the need to bring more attractions and capital to our downtown area. That's a bit on a decline, but I feel like there are wiser investments to help our downtown market rather than throwing all our 34 million eggs into one basket in hopes that it's bringing in new business. For example, I think just adding another parking deck would be less expensive and more valuable, especially for our downtown workers and festival goers. We could bring in more hotels into downtown if the county doesn't try and nitpick every little detail to keep it in a certain aesthetic and just let them do what they feel is best with their own private property. We could split the funds towards making Athens 100% energy efficient, thereby losing costs in energy and utilities. We could use that we could use less than $30 million to make small changes to our downtown area that could make a big impact and could bring in more businesses, visitors, and entrepreneurs. I understand the appeal of the arena and the potential it may have, but I feel like it's too steep of a price for the Athens taxpayers. I see this as more of a gamble than a proper investment. The possibility sounds nice, but we've heard it all before from the other projects the Classic Center has done. If it's worth doing, I believe that private investors will find a way, and I don't think this is the taxpayers' responsibility. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Hello, I'm Annie's Ritter, and I live at 180 Brentwood Drive. I'm currently a member of the library board, and I'm a retired educator. And I am a strong supporter of the East Side Library. It'll be a full-service library, as you know, for the entire community. The proposed library will give greater access to services currently provided at the Baxter Street location, where it now takes, if anyone is taking the bus, it'll take them an hour to get there. So we'd like to have a library that would be near our schools. We have of course, many schools in the area, so the proposed location would be near schools and walkable neighborhoods. I recently served, and I saw you, Mayor Gertz, I recently served on the grand jury for the county. We are trying to incarcerate ourselves out of some of our social problems here, such as family violence, addiction, gang membership. But at the core of these problems is lack of decent paying jobs, lack of affordable housing, so that many live in crowded public housing or poorly managed properties. And I invite any of you to come to the east side and see how some of the properties have been so poorly managed. It's really a blight on the county when you see that. And this is correlated also to good literacy skills, and we know that a library would provide access to that. I understand that the proposed court and judicial complex is high on the agenda. The cost is more than $75 million. After serving on the grand jury, I have acquired a new mantra: educate rather than incarcerate. We are spending way too much money on that. So let's fully fund the library with 3 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and a high school, and a growing population on the east side. This library can assist in increasing literacy and digital technology access in among not only the students, but for entire families. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ritter.
Thank you for taking the time to listen today. My name is Arimiose Frimpong. I live at 475 Brookwood Drive. And the conventional argument against term limits is that you want legislators to have been here for a while, you want commissioners to have been here for a while, because if you keep cycling in new ones, the people who stay are the lobbyists. And they get their way while the institutional knowledge goes out. So I worry that the reason why we're talking about the Classic Center today is because the lobbyists kind of outfoxed some of the new legislators. And that's unfortunate. So I'm going to ask for a little bit of humility and patience from this board to actually, I don't want to have to kill this to organize a campaign to kill this bill when it's on the ballot. So I want you guys to actually just start again, start fresh, because it's been corrupted by circumstance insofar as we have a new commission that isn't matched up with the wiles of some of the older lobbyists and development officials in town. Right? So, I mean, you know, there's a reason why Paul Kramer got 4 chances to pitch this project and some of the other people didn't. And it's not because, you know, he's more than one person. So I'm asking for humility. And there's also the reason why there's this illusion that the only way that the Classic Center can pay for the arena is through SPLOST money. You know, I suspect if I had access to his phone for about 2 weeks, I could get $20 million, his phone and his Amex. So I don't want to see this body be used because of some inexperience. And the second bit, the first bit was the line about the conventional argument against term limits. The second bit's about how corruption works in terms of flattery, right? A lot of people think that you can scare politicians into doing what you want them to do, but the best way is to flatter them, to convince them that they really negotiated with you and they drove a hard bargain and gave you whatever, and you really had to work to get what you needed. So I'm sure a lot of you guys really feel like you negotiated a good deal with the Classic Center, but that's just not the case. It's just not the case with respect to that project. So especially when we're looking at cutting the funding for the East Side Library, and I think it is pretty much on that list in order to make sure the entire SPLOST gets passed. It's the beard or the cover for some of the thicker projects, because we're not funding it. Like when the library people come and tell you that this isn't as much that we need for the library, and you're like, no, it is. Like I think it's possible you guys have been captured. So I want to start the process again, so I don't have to try to kill it when it's on the ballot. And I want to ask for the maturity and the patience to start the process again, because you don't want your first legacy to be that you overshot or outstripped the Citizens Advisory Committee's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ese Frimpong.
Good evening. My name is Tony Sanchez. I live at 245 Blueberry Hills Court, Athens, Georgia, 30601. I'm the director for the Office of Recovery Transformation at the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, the state of Georgia. Most importantly, I'm a person in long-term recovery, and what that means to me is that it's been over 18 years since I've had a drink or a drug. It's been 18 years since I've been arrested, about 15 years since I've been on probation, parole, and my first job that I received when I came out in December of 2001 was with the Classic Center. I started working first as a dishwasher, then I was setting up tables and, moving furniture. I worked my way up to event planner. I bought my first house when I was at the Classic Center. I had viable insurance at the Classic Center. And the things that I learned at the Classic Center are the very things, to be a part of a team, how to work, how to show up for work, how to plan, how to plan for budgets, how to just bring and work in excellence. I learned that at the Classic Center. And because of that, those are the very things that allow me to do what I do now for the state of Georgia. So I'm in favor of this arena. And the reason why is that, man, we need jobs. You know what I'm saying? When I first started working at the Classic Center, I had to take the bus, right? But after a while, I was able to buy a car, and then I was able to take my son to the library. You know what I'm saying? Like, as an adult, there's a lot of people, man, who are suffering right here in Athens, Georgia. You know what I'm saying? From drug addiction, from behavioral health challenges, who are coming home from prisons and in jails, and they need the opportunity to go to work and take care of their families. They need a place where they can start off as a dishwasher, and through hard work and dedication, they can work up and become event managers and and hold executive positions, and not necessarily with a college degree. Yeah, you can go back to school and learn, you know what I'm saying? But if you don't have those opportunities, and a place that can support someone who's re-entering our community, you know what I'm saying, and to be able to give back, then, what are we doing here? Listen, today I'm a taxpayer, I vote, I'm a homeowner, my house is paid for. You know what I'm saying? And again, I attribute all the things, all my successes to the lessons that I learned working with Paul Kramer and the Classic Center team. Yeah, you know what I mean? This is more than just about money. It is about money. You know what I'm saying? But it's about the economic impact that you'll have from your citizens who'll be able to, buy groceries and pay rent and pay taxes. You understand what I'm saying? Let me bring it home. I know the yellow light went on, right? So on August 1st and 2nd, there's a conference that's coming in that I'm hosting, and I'm bringing it to the Classic Center. 500 attendees for 2 days, and 350 room nights for 2 days, right? And the economic impact of the individuals who are going to be in our town, you know what I'm saying? And I can do that because I learned what I learned at the Classic Center. Anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez.
I'm Joseph Carter. I live at 175 Oglethorpe Avenue. I'm here to speak in support of the CDO submitted by Commissioner Parker and Commissioner Link to remove the Classic Center project and to replace it with the Downtown Economic Development Project. Because of one thing, and this will probably sound weird at first, because of jobs. As a labor activist, as an organizer, trying to organize the largest institution here in the city and the region, UGA, I see a lot of hiring practices and paying conditions that do not allow, not give any real opportunities for residents who live in Bethel Homes, Broad Acres, Containing Towers, a way to improve their lives and to even have the possibility to, as a community, to own property. Because that's what is at issue. How does this enable us to transform communities to own properties, not just individuals. Because that's what changes the economic landscape, is when people grow wealth. When you have a wealth disparity in this country of white wealth at about $160,000 and then black wealth at about $1,700. And that's reflected that's in this community. So when you bring in 630 jobs that pay between $12 and $15 an hour, you still suppress wages. You still suppress wages because you operate within a community that has the same wage structure. It doesn't bring wages up. But if we have the opportunity to control that $34 million, we can create opportunities. We can provide the oversight to go into these communities and give them real skill sets to work in the communities so that they can be placed in jobs collectively, because that's the issue. The collective bolstering up of the community, not the individual, because you only have the individual if you have the community. So I urge you to think about how this affects generational poverty in the community and not just helping individuals out. That is what is at issue, because budgets are moral documents. And that means that the allocations are not a question of ability or pragmatics, but of priorities. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Carr.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioner. My name is Noah D. Johnson. I live in 2035 Timothy Road. I'm basically here to support the arena project. I know a lot of people are going to be surprised that I'm supporting the arena project, but that's basically because you don't know my background and what shapes my perception of what needs to be done. Jobs, 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 jobs. My wife, mother, both retired in the hospitality industry, raised families in the hospitality industry, own property today from retiring in the hospitality industry. My mother had a 10th grade education. My wife's mother's a Jamaican immigrant. So I know the possibility of what these jobs can do that's on the table. Not only that, I come from Orlando, Florida, a big tourism city. I know the impact, the economic impact on a city when you put some focus on your entertainment and your tourism industry. This can be a big project. These people that he was just talking about in these communities, I come out of these communities. I worked in the hospitality industry. As a houseman, I worked as a busboy in the restaurant industry. My daughter has worked and provided for her child in the hospitality industry. So that's one of the main reasons why I support that. And as an event producer here in town, my wife and I produced the Athens Hip Hop Awards 7 years, the MLK Parade and Festival for 3 years. And matter of fact, I got an event Saturday at Hendershots. It enables me to employ some of our community members temporarily when we're doing these events. Sometimes vendors, sometimes even the Athens-Clarke County Police. So if we can do this with the limited resources that we have, just imagine what this arena can bring to our town. That's the reason why I support the arena.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Charlie Maddox. I live at 115 Avalon Drive, Athens, Georgia. I've lived in Athens all my life so far, and I plan to continue that. I come to speak on behalf of the arena. Let me help everybody out real quick. This is not Paul Kramer's arena. This is Athens-Clarke County's arena. The individuals that sit behind the rail, you all have designated 5 individuals to oversee this, and each and every one of us that has been chosen by you are wholeheartedly in support of this. And we're not in support of this to build some Taj Mahal or to increase our wages, which are zero, or to increase Paul Kramer's status. It is about Athens-Clarke County. It's about jobs. The end of the road. If you want to fight poverty, jobs is what does it. I worked in the Labor Department for 35 years, and I saw what a job will do. A job gives a person dignity. You talk about, well, a low-paying job or a high-paying, a job that they can call their own and they rise every morning and go to. And this arena will produce that. And let me take it even a little further than that. It will produce that, and it will produce positive images for our community and for our young people and the things that they can do. It will give them incentive. I don't know anybody in my circle that didn't start out with a low-paying job. My first job was $1.25 an hour, and I was glad to have it. But you have to start somewhere, and several years ago, we passed on something because of low-paying jobs. I always said, low-paying jobs, no-paying job. Which one would you take? And this is an opportunity. And we're talking about SPLOST. SPLOST is one of the projects on there, and it may be the only one that's going to put money back in the coffers to help the library, to help the trail, to help all these other things. Because from this investment, see, we're talking about an investment that's going to pay returns. And from that money that comes out of what we want to do there, and I say we, the board of directors that want to do there, will benefit all of Athens. This is not a one-trick pony. This is about all of the other projects that are on there, and we're in the position to enable some of them to go forward with the economic impact that we're talking about the Classic Center venue will bring. When you get private individuals willing to put their money in to a public precept, that tells you it must be a pretty good idea. So I urge you, I implore you, let's do this, and let's do it right. So it's one person came up and said, we don't come back later and try to refix it and cost us more money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maddox.
Whit Richardson, 500 Millage Heights. I'd just like to take a second to thank all of the SPLOST committee members that might be here, Shannon Wilder for chairing it, you, the commissioners, for all the time, and you, Mr. Mayor, for all the time that y'all spent looking over all of this. I know that everybody's put a lot of time as well as heart into it, so thank you for that. As a business owner in the hospitality industry, we really rely on the Classic Center, kind of just like we rely on UGA. We need it to grow. As you've seen, lots of new restaurants are opening, and I can only see that trend with hotels and restaurants with the arena. SPLOST funds are transformative, and that's exactly what this arena would do. It would be transformation for this city, for this downtown. And I just urge this commission to get behind that transformation. I had the pleasure of meeting Paul through an organization called Bread for Life. Some people have talked about that already, but it is a program that helps people recovering from substance abuse get jobs. Paul pretty much started this decades ago and has been building this program. I had the pleasure of working with him over the last 4 or 5 years. But if we are talking about workforce development being a priority and jobs being a priority, the Classic Center and Bread for Life, that is what Paul has been doing. That is what the Classic Center has been doing. And I just feel certain that an arena would only multiply those efforts. So I feel like the arena is a good business decision for Athens-Clarke County. So let's put the arena and the SPLOST funding tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Burden, and I live at 256 Claystone Woods Drive. I'm here in the capacity of as a citizen, but also as a professional. I work with adult population that have developmental disabilities, substance abuse, and other barriers. And I'm here in support of the Classic Center and the arena because from my own experience, well, let me just go back a little bit. I'm new to Athens. I've been here for about 2 years. I come from the north, and I've done workforce development work for over 25 years. I've worked in that industry in low-income urban communities. And so I'm here in Athens, and what I did notice about Athens when I got here and being out here in the field doing community work, is that there's a lot of resources and things like that available, social services, resources for the vulnerable population. However, I kind of stumbled upon the Classic Center and the Bread for Life through my clients. They had got involved in that program, and what I found with that program, it was so unique in that it paralleled what we did. So it gave our clients an opportunity without judgment, without being discouraged. We kind of piggybacked off of each other. It's like a ripple. So we take our clients out in the field for jobs. Sure, we can get them a job in McDonald's or something like that, and then they don't retain it but for a couple months or so. But with the Classic Center and that program that encourages them, I have one client that I did refer there. She is doing like 180-degree turnaround, and not just the job, her mentality, her confidence, and all of that came along with that job. Now she's looking to positive things for the future. I mean, if we had more programs like this, or more employers like this that are willing to take ex-offenders, to take people that are in recovery and trying to get their life back on track, give them an opportunity, and then build them up while they're getting their like first jobs. Because a lot of these jobs are some of these people's first jobs because they've been out in the street, homeless, on drugs. They don't have anything, and the Classic Center gives them their first opportunity, and then also they build them up. They don't just give them a job, they support them. I mean, Shannon, our people can go into his office, and if they're going through things, he talks to them just like I would as their job coach. And I love that program it coordinates with what we do. And we've seen its success. And they can go from these jobs to better things, just like Tony was saying, his testimony. So I'm hoping that you guys will support that program. Thank you.
Ms. Bird.
Hello. Greetings, Commissioners, Mayor Gertz. My name is Andrea Farnham. I live at 475 Brookwood Drive, District 8. I am a sex therapist. I spend most of my time helping couples learn how to think about each other and enable each other's pleasure and create options with the other person in mind, with the aim of their partner in mind. And when I think about government, the job of government is to enable the freedom of all of its citizens. Unfortunately, typically we enable the freedoms of certain citizens and not others. That when we're making decisions about projects, we only have certain people in mind. We usually have owners in mind, developers in mind, people that already have wealth. And we're not thinking about the city as a whole. In fact, Athens is kind of two cities. We all know our atrocious poverty rate. It's probably 38%, depending on if you include students. And everybody works in Athens. We have less than a 4% unemployment rate. Everybody is working. We don't need more low-wage jobs. I do not support using my tax dollars for the Classic Center for a variety of reasons, mostly because there's lots of other ways to fund the Classic Center besides tax money. And as a government, our job is to think about what it means to aggressively enable freedom of everybody that lives in Athens, every Athenian. And I have some notes here that I forgot. I'm not convinced that the Classic Center does what it promises. Football comes here, and we have lots of people that flood Athens for football games. And what has that done for the poverty rate? The Classic Center was built. Tons of events come for the Classic Center. It's been here for a very long time. And what has it done for the poverty rate? More events coming to Athens has not quite addressed what is wrong in Athens. And so what does bringing more events and more venues do? Is that really what we need our tax money to go towards? Instead of aggressively addressing what Athenians need addressed. I think the arena is great. I think it'll be wonderful when Paul Kramer finds some buddies to fund it for him. I just don't think that it's what Athenians need to be spending their money on, because we have a lot of very serious problems in Athens that need that tax money to focus on. And I think that the promise of more low-wage jobs and that somehow this center increases the quality of life for Athenians, I don't think that's true. I think that's a story we like to tell ourselves, and the poverty rate in Athens continues to tick down. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farnham.
Hi, my name is Ann O'Neill, and I live on Ashbrook Drive in Mr. Harrod's district on the east side. And I came tonight to support the East Side Library, and I'm going to try to keep it very short because a lot of people before me have stated some very good reasons for supporting the East Side Library. I think we all know Athens is not a small town anymore, and it can and should have more than one public library. And the one that's there now is so vibrant and so lively and such a beautiful community center that it would be a horrible thing to deprive the east side of an equally nice facility. I do want to say one thing. The library, unlike some of the other projects that have been described tonight, obviously does not bring direct revenue into the city. People don't pay to use the public library. But I just learned a statistic tonight that I didn't know that does talk about how the library saves money. And I didn't know this, that this library on Baxter Street saved the citizens of Athens an estimated $21 million just last year. And it did that by providing them with books, magazines, park passes, museum passes, free events and activities, free public shows, and free after-school services for their children. So those savings, plus the savings that are achieved in the indirect revenue from an increased quality of life and education and all of the other benefits of a library, certainly justify and I think support the idea that we need another one. And if I can, I'd like to speak out on behalf of another project that no one mentioned tonight. One or two people did mention, and I have read in the paper that some other people had made the comment, that the court project should not be funded because supporting the courts, an expansion of the courts is somehow going to increase incarceration. I mean, it's a complicated argument. And I don't like the idea of over-incarcerating. But no one seems to talk about the fact that the court project also relates to increasing the amount of space that's available for the civil court system. And I'm a retired attorney. I'm actually a member of the Georgia Bar, but I practiced for many years in California. And the idea of having a courthouse that's so crowded as this one makes it really difficult for me to understand how we're giving the kind of good service that the citizens need in order to optimize the benefits they get. And I'll give you one example. For someone who spent a career doing public speaking, I'm finding my voice cracking right now, so I apologize.
Ms. O'Neill, we appreciate you coming out tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay. Sorry. I was just going to tell you we have a volunteer program that's on that helps people who can't afford an attorney. Every Monday, we help people prepare their pleadings in the courthouse, and we crowd into the tiny little law library. And I'd like someone to come down and see the number of people who show up, the number of volunteers, and the tiny amount of space we have to provide this free service to people. So anyway, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Holly Alderman. I reside at 695 Riverbend Parkway. I just wanted to thank all of the commissioners for putting the Jackson Street Art Walk back into the SPLOST plan. The Art Walk fulfills a couple of mandates from the Downtown Master Plan as well as the Public Art Master Plan, both plans that have been accepted by this government in the recent past, and both plans that were heavily engaging with the public and those recommendations that came from a lot of public input. So to add more of these types of quality of life amenities in Athens. So, and as a member of the Cultural Affairs Commission, we will be volunteers who are helping to shoulder a lot of the work with this project, and we look forward to doing that. We also look forward to partnering and assisting you further with the hopefully all of these SPLOST projects that come on board and will be identified by you as appropriate for public art. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alderman.
Good evening, Mayor. I'm Michael Smith, 147 Bryan Street. I'm here to directly to appeal to you personally and also the board to support the COD put forth by Commissioner Link and Parker. In 2010, me and a few friends that were from totally different places politically started a group called Rebuild SPLOST, and we opposed that referendum. We were against the county jail. We were for a new jail, but at half the size. We were for a new jail, but one that did not concentrate solely on punitive measures to work with our citizens that were in trouble with the law. We also did not support the Classic Center expansion. Not only did we feel like that it was going to isolate downtown, but the rules of decorum were interrupted in these chambers 10 years ago when one of our positions was it appeared like public-private partnerships were starting to appear within ACC unified government. And in the last 10 years since then, there's been thousands and thousands of people impacted by having their social services taken away in this county without due process. I've argued due process rights for poor people in 4 different states, including in these chambers on due process rights. And every time our argument was accepted by the court. Also, bus ridership has disappeared among the people in our community. Today, the greatest injustice is we're not talking in a collaborative way about the Judicial Center because the Classic Center is taking everything out of the room, okay? I also stand with Paul Kramer, and I also stand with everyone in this room because we all love Athens. But if everything that everyone asks for, we can do by accepting the commission-defined option. The Classic Center and this body and the groups mentioned need to come together and get real about collaborative democracy and social and economic justice. I challenge any commissioner to say that we cannot do what everyone asks for today with doing the commission-defined option offered by Commissioner Link and Mariah Parker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Good evening. My name is Tommy Valentine, 395 Cleveland Avenue. I'm here today speaking on behalf of the Athens-Clarke Heritage Foundation. As I was preparing to speak today and to try to think about what can be said that hasn't already been said, both tonight and in the many, many months we've spent gearing up for this process, I was reminded of my time in retail. For those of you that have worked in retail, you know that no one ever asks to speak to the manager for a good reason. And I realized that in much that same way, every time I've ever approached this podium in my life, it's been to ask for more. Tonight, I'm here to say thank you. We had 2 projects that we were connected to, and neither one arrived in the form we expected or hoped. But you've provided funding to both in ways that we believe with ingenuity we can make an impact on this community. First, let me say that before taking this position in November, my last job involved me working with people with developmental disabilities. And as I was having the hard time of saying goodbye to so many of those participants, many of them asked if they could visit me at work. And so within my first week of work visiting the Welcome Center, it was a very hard thing to realize that for those of them facing mobility challenges, that they wouldn't be able to. And that the front door of our entire community was closed to people with mobility challenges, including the many seniors that visit our Welcome Center, as part of that 11,000 visitors a year. Mostly you've heard from me about Beach Haven, but we as the Welcome Center do help operate and manage that Welcome Center, and we are very grateful to see its inclusion. I also want to thank you for the consideration and attention you've given to Beach Haven. That excitement has been demonstrated with some of what we saw last week. Those of you that walked by Flagpole last week saw Beach Haven on the front cover, but it was also on the front cover of the Athens Banner-Herald and the red and black. And we see that the more that people talk about Beach Haven, the more excited people are to go out there and to see the heritage and history, the contributions of African American master craftsmen, but also the equity that it offers that area when it comes to access to a great park. So just on those two projects, I want to say that we know that compromise means not getting what you want. We know that we're going to have to be creative and figure out ways to do things beyond what we had first considered, but we think these are net positive projects. And this is a very difficult process you've faced. Thank you for your patience. Our many emails, my emails alone, I'm sure, filled up your inbox, but also from our members. And we are just truly grateful for your consideration throughout this process. And we look forward to our next step, which is helping you to see this pass after tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine.
Hi, my name is Adam Shirley. I live at 173 South Billop Street. I am a member of the SPLOST 2020 Citizens Advisory Committee. We 21 plain old citizens met 20 times over 4 months, spending something like 80 hours helping recommend a list of SPLOST projects to fund. We heard presentations on 88 projects asking over $1.1 billion. We hemmed and hawed and got the list down to about 44 projects totaling about $400 million. This did include the Classic Center Arena. This did not include what is now being referred to as Project Number 1, the Facility Space Modernization Project. This mayor and commission then decided to designate 2 projects. Those projects, as we now know, were Number 1 and Number 2, the Space Modernization Project and the Affordable Housing Project. Those 2 projects alone totaled $121 million, or just under half of the total SPLOST budget. Designating those projects meant we as a committee only had the remaining balance to recommend allocating. When we reconvened, several of us were disheartened that so much of this SPLOST was consumed by so few projects. Many of us expressed the desire to do everything we could to recommend investing the remaining budget in as many community projects as possible, having the biggest possible direct impact on the people of Athens. After many more hours of deliberating, we arrived at a final recommended list. The Classic Center Arena did not make it onto our recommended list. It did not fail because we voted against it, but rather because our priorities were elsewhere, and we could not justify recommending more than $30 million on another single project. I am delighted you did not remove any of the projects we recommended. I'm thrilled for some of the projects you found money to add to the list. Had the Classic Center Arena been added purely through adding an extra year, I would not be asking you all to reconsider adding it. However, millions of dollars have been removed from other projects, including the library, the Gaines Youth Development Center, the Beach Haven Park. When I consider what we are losing from all those projects in their reduced forms, I have to believe that $34 million could be more wisely invested by redistributing it to the other projects, the projects we as a committee originally recommended being included. In response to the comments of the speakers before me, closing the Classic Center is not an issue here. That is not what we're talking about. None of us who are opposed to the arena are advocating tonight for anything close to do with removing the existing Classic Center. I do not dispute the good the Classic Center has done. I do not dispute the testimony of the proponents we've heard from tonight. I simply worry that this money could be more wisely and justly invested elsewhere. In sum, I asked the mayor and commission to approve removing project number 3 from the SPLOST and reallocating those funds to other projects on the list, restoring them to their original proposed and recommended amounts. If that action fails to gain majority approval, I asked the mayor and commission to approve Commissioner Parker's and Commissioner Link's CDO to permit current and future mayors and commissions the flexibility to proceed with the Classic Center Arena or any other project that in their judgment is worthy. Regardless of the outcome on the Classic Center Arena, I am hopeful the remainder of the SPLOST SPLOST will be approved by y'all. There are so many wonderful projects you have included on the list, and I am excited to begin campaigning to raise awareness of how much good we can do for thousands of future Athenians. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shirley.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Horde, and I live at 248 Springdale Street in Athens. I'm here tonight in my volunteer capacity as the chairman of the CVB Advisory Board. Our advisory board is made up of area hoteliers, restaurateurs, and small business owners. We also include membership of representation from the State Botanical Garden, the Georgia Museum of Art, and the Georgia Center for Continuing Education. I'm here tonight to ask you to include the Classic Center in our SPLOST referendum at the amount that is currently proposed, and also want to remind everyone what you already know, that the cost of this facility has been greatly lessened by private investment and by value engineering. The original amount was far in excess of what is on the table today, but we're going to make it work as a board and as a community if you will give us the opportunity. One thing I want to let everyone be aware of is that our marketing team, as well as exhaustive marketing studies, have shown us that this project will succeed. And if we build it, tourists and agencies that want to come here, that have wanted to host events, but we had no room for them, will. Tourism will improve. The other thing that I think is important to note is that we're talking about the addition of one of hundreds of jobs. Are they executive $100,000 a year jobs to begin with? No. But they are jobs with a minimum starting salary of $11.60 per hour. And very importantly, they are on a public transportation node. This will have a lot of impact on our citizenry. Additionally, and of course, I don't know all of the nuances of every project, but I am intimately acquainted with this one. And this project will provide a steady revenue stream forever back to the coffers of the Athens-Clarke County government for you, Mr. Mayor, and you commissioners to allocate for the betterment of the people of Athens so that our community will continue to be a better place, even better than it is today, for all Athenians to live, worship, play, and work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hoare.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. My name is Nene Onyohai Clayton, and I live at 145 Three Oaks Drive, 30607. I'm a member of the 100% Athens Steering Committee, that is the 100% Athens Renewable Energy Initiative, and for the edification of participants in this unusually packed meeting, I would like to introduce 100% Athens as a local coalition of groups committed to a just and equitable transition to 100% renewable energy by 2035 for electricity and by 2050 for all other sources. So look out for us around town, please. A just and equitable transition that includes 100% of the community prioritizes the needs of the least served and marginalized communities, and we applaud the Mayor and Commission's commitment to this vision and process in the resolution that was passed in May of this year. We seek to secure funding for this project, this immense project, from as many sources as possible, including SPLOST. And we would like to thank Commissioner Parker's CDO that added an additional $1.5 million per year to our proposal, which would help fully fund the project. I would also like to share an excerpt from a letter of support for your decision to include the Energy Sustainability Project in the Athens-Clarke County SPLOST 2020 project list. We hope you will fully fund the energy sustainability project at $15.8 million for the 11-year term for this SPLOST package. This investment will spur a just and equitable transition to 100% clean and renewable energy for Athens-Clarke County at the speed appropriate to meet the challenges we face together. This project allocates funds towards renewable energy installations and efficiency upgrades on county property, and these investments will help save money, set a strong example to municipalities in Georgia and beyond, and give Athens-Clarke County a jump start to begin the transition to clean and renewable energy. We, the undersigned organizations, congratulate the community on the passage of 100% Athens of Athens' 100% clean and renewable energy resolutions. Similar goals have been set by over 100 cities around the U.S., including Atlanta, major corporations, and entire states, and these municipal efforts will spur innovation and help guide policy at the state and national levels to realize a clean and sustainable future. Signed, Environment Georgia, Georgia Interfaith Power and Light, Sierra Club, and Georgia Conservation Voters. Please check your inbox for a copy of this letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clayton.
My name is Walter Cook, and I live at 105 Yorkshire Road in Bogart. That's the address. I live in Clarke County. I would be remiss if I didn't have this last chance to plead with the commission to include the Tallahassee Forest Park, and that's my name for it. I've been out there so many days and weeks, if you add it up, all over that woods, and I just think that the people of Clarke County will enjoy it. It will be for all the people in the county, not just the people who live, on Tallahassee Road. But when they find out how nice it is, how beautiful it is, they'll be coming from all sides of the county. Back years ago, when we started the nature center, the Sandy Creek Nature Center, there was objections to have that way out there. And I had to show a person on a map that it was closer to this building than Memorial Park was. That was her favorite. Same thing with Cook's Trail. I was surprised at that one. I had no idea that many people would want to walk through that swamp, along that creek, and just to walk through it and enjoy the outdoors, enjoy the beautiful woods, although it's a lot of privet, but it is nice. It's a way. This place, Tallahassee Forest Park, is a way. It's about the far end of the county on the west side, but people will come to it. When they find out how nice it is, they will, and they'll appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. All right. Looks like we've made it through the line. I do want to thank everybody who came out tonight. I think it's through your efforts that we have a stronger community and that we'll have a stronger capital program in the next decade. Just as we're about to begin discussion, we're going to play a fun exercise. So if you sent an email or a text or a tweet or made a phone call or spoke to a neighbor about SPLOST over the last 6 months, would you raise your hand? All right. Thank you. Thank you. I can't thank enough the commitment and the engagement and the conversations that have been happening in this community. I mean, it really is every one of you, it's everyone who's listening tonight, it's everyone who's watching online or on television that's going to make this a stronger project. So given the hour and a half that you've spent with us, I want to take just a minute to say that to all of you. So We are ready to move forward onto commission conversation.
Can we take a break?
And folks would like a brief break. Very brief. Would that be desirable to the members of this body?
Sure.
We can do it. Let's take 5 minutes. Let's be back at 7:45.
Anybody got an iPhone charger?
All right, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Mayor Looney, grab the door for me. Be all right?
I'll get it.
That's all right. Welcome back, welcome back.
Mayor Pro Tem?
All right.
Commissioner Thornton?
All right, we're going to go ahead and begin commission input on first agenda item, old business number 1. All right, be happy to have anyone kick off conversation.
Go ahead, Andy.
Commissioner Denson?
No, I'll go, yeah. Okay. Well, thank everybody for their input. I was starting to look at the CDOs here, and the one I wanted to talk about, since it's Commissioner Parker's one, is the one on the energy, which I fully support. And so, as everybody knows, it's going to add about $1.5 million to our energy improvement activities. But I want to bring everybody's attention to the second line on here, which is the estimated annual operating savings. Because in addition to, in adding $1.5 million to the cost, which I support, the estimated annual operating savings on the document remained the same amount. And so I talked to the manager, and I believe that by adding the $1.5 million, we actually get a larger estimated annual operating savings of about an additional $100,000 per year. And so over the length of the SPLOST, excuse me, that comes to $1.1 million ballpark. And so as we start to talk about the SPLOST package as a whole, what I would like to suggest to my colleagues, since, and I understand that this will be operating costs rather than construction costs, but since between the manager and myself, we just identified an additional $1.1 million in annual operating savings, I would like to argue for, in the spirit of compromise, to adding back the $720 to approximately $1,000 for the East Side Library. So I know it's different pots of money, but I just want to throw that out there as a way to start the conversation off.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Neesmith?
I fully support that. I want to make sure we get the mechanics of it right to add it to whatever the next motion is. Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Well, I'll just go ahead and get a motion going here. We'll add, that's project number 25. I'm in support of that, especially since you just found the money right there. And the one page of 3 different commission-defined options, my motion is going to be to accept the project list as distributed on the agenda, and adding to that the commission-defined option from Parker for project 11. Project 35 that has a commission-defined option from Davenport, Thornton, and Wright. We also have a commission-defined option for number 9, which is the mobile medical project, which we have learned would be a more appropriate term to be services. So it would be the mobile medical services project, and it would have mobile medical services facility. Just a little update on the terminology there. That came forward from the management. It's always great to have the insights when we get monkeying around with our commission-defined options. So I make that motion so that this one is the projects as presented, and commission-defined options, including number 25, the library that was just recommended.
And do you intend to make the slight modification to the Bogart and
then with the library change, that would make some new amounts of math, of which I'm not qualified for the City of Winterville projects and the town of Bogart, so that we would be accepting the changes in those amounts due to what was added tonight.
So kind of given the terms of your commission-defined option, given that there would be a proportional increase in the overall package size, there would similarly be a proportional increase in the size of the Bogart and Winterville buckets.
That's correct.
Okay.
And so what's on the commission-defined option that was in the packet today reflected the changes that Project 11, I'm sorry, that was a renewable energy project, 35 live stream pipe replacement. Those numbers for Winterville and Bogart were updated from the SPLOST office. So that'll change a little bit. Instead of us trying to do the math now, we'll just include that change. And then the mobile medical services project does not have a budget change to it. It's just terminology.
I second.
Commissioner Link?
I'd like to propose a substitute motion that we go ahead and accept those CDOs and the whole slate as Commissioner Wright stated, as well as the CDO from Commissioner Parker and I, that substitutes the Classic Center Arena $34 million in funding for a down economic development and community improvement project, which essentially is following the same model as our affordable housing project, where instead of designating very specific projects, we have more of a bucket. And I just want to state that this does not in any way close the door on a Classic Center expansion. Rather, it keeps the door open for a more diverse and inclusive and broader conversation about how this end of downtown develops. And moving forward, it also opens the door to encourage minority business opportunities in downtown Athens, because that was not part of the discussion. Right now, this project, as is primarily focused on corporate development, parking decks and hotels. I feel like, we need to explicitly make room for local entrepreneurs and particularly minority businesses, especially seeing as we're creating a Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and we have some economic development goals to assist minority businesses. This property is adjacent to transit and trails, and so there's so much potential for a vibrant, unique, diverse district. A mixed-use district, which, won't necessarily be eliminated by an arena, but moving forward, if we can invite the kind of community discussion, including existing committees that have to do with downtown, as well as hopefully creating, inviting new voices to the table. We need to create opportunities, not just jobs, because there are many ways to create jobs. And the Classic Center has done a great job. I feel like they've done a tremendous job, creating jobs and creating opportunities for people to have jobs. But what we have not done is created opportunities for people to create lasting wealth, and particularly minority businesses. At this point, the vast majority of folks in this community are locked out of downtown. Property values have gotten so through the roof, market rate property values, but this represents over a dozen acres of publicly controlled land that we can inject some direction into as it develops and create those opportunities. And also make sure that there is room for sustainable development to meet our sustainability goals and our renewable energy goals. This is not closing the door on the Classic Center. It's merely widening the door a little bit more to create greater opportunities and ensure that there is discussion about those opportunities as we move forward.
There's a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'd like to second that motion. As I see the CDO as an opportunity for everyone to win in this scenario. It does not foreclose the potential for the Classic Center to expand, but it does open a broader, more collaborative, more democratic community conversation about whether or not increased investment in the hospitality industry in this sector of downtown is going to be what's best for creating jobs where workers actually have a say in their working conditions, have fair wages, and have a sense of ownership over the operations of the business, where they can actually move up within those businesses, should they be cooperatives or small businesses, to get to a financial position of themselves where they can become those caterers that are providing those food services at a place like the arena, to become people who are opening venues of their own rather than having their own dreams shut down through deciding right now, right here, that we're going to give up that control to corporate interests. So I just think that a lot of the opinions that we've heard this evening have come from a certain sort of person. We've heard from a lot of people who are in management positions, people who are in executive positions within their organizations, and they may have an intimate understanding of the hospitality industry, but what we're not hearing from right now are a lot of hospitality workers themselves. I know a lot of these people personally. I probably more recently than anyone else sitting on this commission worked in the service industry about 2 years ago, and I know that it is a very hard road for a lot of people. And I want those people to be a part of this conversation if we're going to move ahead with developing downtown in this way. And this CDO just presents us the opportunity to continue that conversation with this commission, with various commissions to come, so that we can truly say that we have embraced democracy and not been bullied by people at the top or bought out by filet mignon dinners and gospel concert tickets. So I think that, and I really truly believe that we do believe in democracy in that way, and so I would love to see us support that continued conversation through support of the CDO.
Yes, Attorney Drake.
Could I ask Commissioner Harry to clarify the amount of money that he wants to add to the East Side Public Library project, so I'll make sure we have that right?
Let me get back in my...
I understand you want
the initial ask was for $14,449,000. And the recommended, our last recommended amount was $13,726,550. And what I'd like to do is to take it back to $14,449,000.
$14,439,000.
449.
49,000. And that difference will be taken from project number 11, the renewable energy project?
No, it will be added to the total.
Just added to the total?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I want clarification. Thank you.
And then there would be a proportionate increase to
Increase to
the
the other
Bogart and
towns,
Winterville,
yeah.
given the higher dollar value of the total package.
Yep, understand.
Okay. Other commissioner input? All right. Gene, if you could do a roll call on the substitute motion, please.
Link?
Yes.
Wright?
No.
Denson?
Yes.
Neesmith?
No.
Edwards?
No.
Harrod?
Nope.
No?
No.
Thornton? No. Hamby?
No.
Davenport?
No.
Parker?
Yes.
3 yes, 7 no.
All right. We return to the original motion on the floor. And just to summarize, it was for the set of projects that were in the package with the additional dollar value added to Project 11, the renewable energy project, $500,000 for the live stream replacement, project number 35, slightly modified language for project number 9, defining it as a mobile medical services project, a total of $14,449,000 for the library, and that slight proportionate increase for Bogart and Winterville.
Mr. Mayor, I noted also, when I asked the Commission's indulgence in project number 29, I noted it could be considered a clerical error, but the Welcome Center Access Improvements Project says this project will provide funding for renovations, improvements, additions to, and equipping of the existing for purposes of, I think that should be of the existing facility. So if we can allow for that word, a facility to be added there, it was omitted as a clerical error. I want to make people aware that we're going to do that. That's going to be done. Is there any?
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
Okay. I have Manager Williams and then Commissioner Denson.
SPLOST staff just gave me the numbers, if y'all would like to know, just before you vote. But adding the $722,000 on top of the increases, increases Winterville to $3,021,000 and Bogart to $378,000. The news total program is $314,303,300.
How much was it to Winterville again?
$3,021,000. Sorry, I didn't mean to run through that so quickly. Bogart, $378,000. Program total, $314,303,300.
Commissioner Denson.
Yeah, I would like to put forward a substitute motion that accepts all of the CDO, what Commissioner Wright put forward, with those changes, accepting Commissioner Harrod's changes, but adding in the, making the language changes that I put in my CDO on projects 1 and projects 3. And basically all this would be changing is how the potential childcare and childcare facility would be involved in those 2 projects. And it would move it up into, and also the attorney did recommend a language change there just so we don't get caught up somewhere we don't want to be. So that on project 1, the sentence starting with this project will provide funding for the renovation of the existing historic courthouse and annex into a facility for governmental operations and/or other uses benefiting the unified government and/or overall community, which may also include childcare and/or the use of any unused space for commercial and/or retail use. And then the second to last sentence would then read, an example of employee well-being initiatives would be elder care. So it moves the child care part from that second to last sentence up. And then the same kind of change will happen on project number 3, so that we will have the sentence that says, on premium seating locations, catering facilities, locker rooms, necessary FF&E equipment, security equipment, child care, and office space sufficient to support such an expansion. And again, changing that second to last sentence with the same wording from project 1. And I'm excited about this. I had a conversation today with some people who work in the child care business and some people who sit on the Classic Center Authority, saying they've already been looking ways to make this happen. Jack Crowley's already looked at these plans and has seen a way that they can have an 8,000 square foot facility if it ends up going into project number 3 that could serve, it would create 135 spaces for infant to 4-year-old care, something that we drastically need and which we've seen in all of our studies recently. And also would create 35 new jobs in that way also. And by doing this, especially if we're able to tie this into what we're trying to do with our prosperity package, which of course, if we're going to move in that direction of the childcare like it's been discussed, we have to have a facility. That if we're able to do that, it looks like there's actually some new state initiatives that could really help with the funding for operation costs that wouldn't be available otherwise. So I'm really excited to have all these pieces kind of coming in at the same time.
Mayor, may I ask a question? This is your CDO that we received, right?
It is. There was a couple of changes that recommended by the attorney, adding in the term after unified government on number 1 and/or overall community, just so that we didn't get stuck somehow with the SPLOST language. And then it removes the word employee in front of childcare. So again, we wouldn't be stuck with only being able to offer childcare to employees. This way it opens it up so we could use it for the prosperity package kind of childcare ideas that we've had.
I want to clarify that Commissioner Denson had asked me about, had expressed to me that his interest in providing that the child care would not be restricted to employees only, and to do that, you'd want to probably remove the word employee, and also the expanding it to say other uses benefiting the unified government and/or overall community would make it certain that the restrictive language of just the unified government wouldn't be brought up as a restriction. So the purpose of what he's trying to accomplish was the basis of the language suggestion. I want to make sure that's understood.
Thank you, Committee. Attorney Drake.
Can you please explain it to me again?
Well, I think Commissioner Denson, I don't want he does not want the child care a part of his CDO to be restricted to employees only. He wants it to be able to be more open, or at least have that option in the language. Ultimately, I think it would be a decision this commission had to make at the later date, of how it wanted to define child care, to be honest with you. But he doesn't want to be precluded.
Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily include non-employee child care or employee services, but it allows it.
Right, the new language would absolutely allow right now as it's written, it just says employee child care. I think we have to make sure, I can't sit here because I haven't had time to do the research to to ensure that we were acting appropriate within the SPLOST law, but we would. But ultimately, this commission is going to have to make that decision, or the members of this commission or others who serve in these seats, as to the extent of the child care, whether it's just employee or whether it extends to others.
And just to enhance that theme, as everybody knows, as we move through any project development, we move from concept to design to contract bid award. So early in any process, we would decide what are those must-haves, what are those most essential components of a project, and then how do we hope to see those played out as design develops.
So Commissioner Thornton, in the simplest term possible, Commissioner Denson would like maximum flexibility with the child care provision. Okay.
At our meeting that we had last week, I seem to remember that we were going to use May in a lot of those gray areas. And I was very comfortable with May. If we have not done our due diligence on what SPLOST, and I just have a real problem locking us into that. I like the May, but if we're going to, wait a minute, Tim. I just would like for us, I don't have no problem with childcare, but again, I said it the other day, there are so many other groups and entities that childcare is just one of the issues. And well, that's a whole nother discussion. I probably am not going to vote for, let me think through this, but I was very comfortable last week when we talked about May. And I thought May gave us the flexibility.
Commissioner, as chair, I'd point out both of these include that May. Yes.
So if we do the May, I don't even know why we're having this discussion. I'm sorry. Maybe somebody else needs to explain it to me.
Well, because right now it says may also include employee child care.
Oh.
And Commissioner Denson was concerned that.
So we're just taking out the employee, is that it?
We're taking out the term employee.
Okay, take out the employee, but let's leave the may, and I'm good.
Commissioner Hamby?
May I make a suggestion to Commissioner Denson? Is this a friendly amendment that could be added to?
It's not friendly.
I've been told it's not friendly, so yeah, I'm making this as a CDO. Yeah.
I guess I'm curious about
as a substitute motion.
I guess I'm wondering. Well, I don't know what I'm wondering now.
Commissioner Hamby, I'm not trying to read your mind, but I get the sense that your thematic bent is that this provides greater opportunity, not less, and that doesn't forestall anything.
And it doesn't tie anybody down. I mean, at the end of the day, when we get to the concepts or whatever and realize, hey, this may not happen.
Yeah,
or
this may not happen.
Or this may
happen. Are we
happen.
okay? I mean, so this is the conceptual piece, the thought, but when we get to the concrete and it doesn't work, we're not locked in and we're not locking nobody else in.
That's correct, Commissioner. As I pointed out earlier, ultimately it will still be up to this commission or the group sitting when this decision is made to determine whether there is child care and the scope of that child care. And I wanted to caution that I have not had a chance to research, but I would, because we're not tied down to it. So you follow what I'm saying? I'm trying to be totally objective and forthright.
Okay, he whispered in my ear, we're not tied down.
Right, we're not tied down. Good way to say it.
I think Andy had his hand
Got
up.
Commissioner Harrod and then Commissioner Wright.
Thank you. I'm fine with taking out the word employee and leaving the rest as Commissioner Denson suggested. I think it gives us more flexibility. But I have a parliamentary question. My understanding is that after initial motion has been made and one substitute motion has been made and failed, that we have to go back to the original motion. We can't entertain a second substitute motion. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Well, let me say that I am not at the point of versed on this. The commission, Madam Clerk said she would get me a copy of the rules just right before we started the meeting. So I will make sure I am next time. So I'm going to have to defer to someone on that ruling or go get a copy of the rules to read them.
So I guess what I'm saying is it would either have to be made as a friendly amendment, or we would have to go back to the original motion. That's my understanding of the rules of the commission.
For the gravity of what we're voting on, I'm certainly happy to entertain some continued conversation to get to the greatest point of consensus. I'll say that
the original
as chair.
motion maker.
She's willing.
Yeah.
Commissioner Wright?
So let me see if I can articulate the change that's happening that's still leaving behind what we were talking about by leaving things open. Because we do not know, we cannot predict the employee well-being initiatives that might be needed, whether it's personal finance, we talked about elder care, but now child care has been pulled out of that group of maybe and turned into separated from the other ones as if they are no longer in that same pool. And that's where I'm feeling uncomfortable with separating them, because I felt like at the work session we were all clear about we cannot predict what sort of human resources, whether it's community, if we took that last sentence and put in employee or community child care or elder care or initiative, I mean, we could have a public health issue that we have to have a little learning session, a community room where we have to address that. We just can't predict. So I didn't want one topic to minimize the other topics when we were sitting around talking about what would be inclusive for the type of concerns that all of us can think of. Instead of taking one concern and elevating it, is making it a pool. And so if we were to make a friendly adjustment on Project 1 to make sure that instead of it being employee, it would be the last sentence says examples of employee well-being initiatives would be or could be employee or community child care or elder care. It keeps it together and it keeps it open, and it doesn't take one topic, giving it a hierarchy of the other things that we talked about. That's a direction I can go if that solves the employee-only part.
Just as Chair would note, kind of the totality of the language for Project 1 in the sentence under conversation reads, this project will provide funding for the renovation of the existing courthouse and annex into a facility for governmental operations and/or other uses benefiting the unified government and/or the overall community, which may include child care and/or the use of any unused space for commercial and/or retail use. So, reading this with the following two languages, certainly it doesn't foreclose or define exactly which community benefit space would be provided or not provided. Commissioner Denson.
I guess I just need to know what we're doing here. If we're able to move forward with my substitute motion, or if we aren't. Because if we can move forward with the substitute motion, then I guess I need to know what I'm working with here.
I think we're under development. I think it's probably the best definition.
You know, we've had this problem a few times before, and we were always instructed that our rules say that there's only one substitute motion.
And while they're...
And I'm not fighting Commissioner Denson, I'm just talking about what our procedures have been. So I would like to see some language that the mover, Commissioner Wright, would be happy with, that would provide Commissioner Denson with what he would be happy with.
I think that's a good question, Commissioner Neesmith.
So if my motion could have a small amendment to the existing last sentence of both Project 1, which is a facility space modernization, and Project 3, Classic Center Arena Project, so the examples of employee well-being initiatives would include employee or community child care and or elder care. I'm just adding in and community for both of them, because just as an example, when EPA, before security was at federal level that you couldn't have non-federal employees on that campus, they had a great child care lifespan. And 50% of the children in that facility were federal employees, and any slots open where that could be general public and the community. So I don't want to shut down that sort of ability with what we're having. I just don't want it to also exclude elder care, because that's just the way I was thinking of it.
It's my observation that either set of language would include the whole scope of prospective activities, given that we're talking about well-being broadly, or both.
Except it says employee well-being.
It does.
So I'm just saying employee, and the initiatives would be employee or community child care or elder care.
There you go. There's the
That's what I'm saying. My motion could be modified with adding or community.
Example,
or
so it could
and.
be employee and community well-being initiatives. Would be
I could do that.
childcare or elder care. So it'd be community and employee initiatives.
Community
Well, it's
and/or
maybe.
employee
It's
initiatives.
maybe, so it's not an or, it could be an and.
Commissioner Herod.
In the interest of hoping to allow us to move forward on this and actually vote, might I suggest that we can combine what Commissioner Wright has just said about that last sentence? I would change would to could, but also to get Commissioner Denson, what he would like is on the previous amendment to simply take out the word employee, so it reads may also include childcare and/or the use of any unused space, and accept that as a friendly amendment.
Before we all need the elder care.
Yeah.
Dang.
Touche.
And to do, and to do that for,
So is he saying that we're just going to
And-
childcare twice?
and to do that for Project 1 and Project 3, I think that gets what Commissioner Denson's getting at, I think it gets what Commissioner Wright's getting at, and it gets us to the point of actually voting on this thing.
There we go. I accept the friendly amendment. Russell, did you hear that?
For clarity's sake, would you mind,
I was
Commissioner
going to
Herod?
ask you.
No.
Reading what you had
Take
suggest
out,
the sentence.
so there are two amendments, two changes, language changes for both Project 1 and 3. So on the first one where it says, which may also include employee childcare and/or, just take out the word employee. And then the second one, it was an example of well-being initiatives could be childcare, comma, elder care, comma, or some similar activity. Does that work for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem listing childcare twice, sure. I mean, the important thing for me is to have it, up in that upper tier with, yeah.
And I would suggest that we make that change for both, because the language is virtually identical with regards to that in project number 1 and project number 3.
Attorney Drake, you have that?
I'm going to read it. Can I read what I think the language reads now?
Yeah.
I'm looking at Commissioner Denson's CDO and starting at where it says, this project will provide funding for the renovation of the existing historic courthouse and annex into a facility for governmental operations and/or other uses benefiting the unified government and/or community, which may also include childcare and/or the use of unused space for commercial and/or retail use. Depending upon cost and funding availability, the facility space modernization program will further serve as a mechanism to facilitate enhanced employee. Actually, I think we should say enhanced employee and/or community well-being initiatives rather than where I said it earlier. Don't y'all agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
I think it probably needs to be in both places.
All right, both, okay. Enhanced employee, then we'll say again, and/or community well-being initiatives. An example of employee well-being initiatives could be elder care, child care, or some similar activities.
Yes.
That'd be fine.
It's very friendly.
I'll accept it.
So has the
I'll accept
original-
it as in the motion.
And I'll accept it as-
I was going to clarify on the record, Commissioner Neesmith has no procedural issue with this, correct?
No.
So the original provider of the motion, Commissioner Wright. and,
Okay, I just want to make sure Commissioners Wright, Denson, and Neesmith are happy with this, because I want to go home sometime before midnight.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
All right.
Okay,
So we're back to the,
all right, Clerk
All right.
Spratlin.
I want to clarify now,
Yes.
this also is for Project 3 as well.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
The same change that we've made for Project 1 in the appropriate location for Project 3.
So we eliminate the word employee from the clause employee child care in Project 3. And then second to last sentence, we add an example of employee well-being initiatives would be elder care, comma, child care.
Employee and community well-being initiatives.
Yep, we add we add down, so in project number 3, we eliminate the word employee from the first grade area where it says employee childcare. And then we further amend project number 3 to say an example of we want to say an example of well-being initiatives, right? We don't want to use the word employee, correct? An example of well-being initiatives could be child care, elder care, or some similar activities.
Perfect.
There's one other, the sentence before that says enhanced employee well-being initiatives, and then it cites examples. So we're going to.
No, we need to say facilitate. You're right. Thank you,
Take out the word employee.
We need to say to facilitate. We need to say to facilitate enhanced employee well-being and community initiatives. How we've changed it above.
Yes.
Here endeth the lesson.
So now it's going to say, depending upon cost and the funding availability. This is the last sentence of project number 3. Depending upon cost and funding availability. Now I'm getting confused.
Project, you're correct. The project will further.
I'm right, I got it, hold on. Depending upon cost and funding availability, the project will further serve as a mechanism to facilitate enhanced employee well-being and community initiatives. An example of
Employee and community well-being initiatives.
Employee
and community
well-being initiatives, I agree. Enhanced. The project will further serve as a mechanism to facilitate enhanced employee and community well-being initiatives.
I think you need to say may instead of will. The project may. Further serve as.
Depending upon cost and funding availability, the project may further serve as a mechanism to facilitate enhanced employee and community well-being initiatives. An example of well-being initiatives could be elder care, child care, or some similar activities.
Correct. Got it.
And that is how the sausage is made.
That's how you make sausage. Right. It's kind of like making law and software.
All right, I appreciate the input of every member of the editing team here this evening. I believe we have now a complete motion on the floor and a second. Does everybody understand that to be the case? All right, Gene, if you could call roll, please.
Wright.
Yes.
Dennison.
Yes.
Naismith.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Harrod.
Yes.
Thornton.
Yes.
Hamby.
Yes.
Davenport.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Link.
Nope.
9 yes, 1 no.
All right, thank you everyone for your hard work. Before we move on, if you are a member of the Citizen Advisory Committee, could you please stand? So we had Adam Shirley, Laura Carter, and Shannon Wilder in the room. You did the yeoman's work. We just fiddled with the language at the end. So thank you very much for your efforts.
They made us spend more money is what they did.
We now move on to our second agenda item under new business to adopt an ordinance assessing taxes for the year 2019 as requested by the Clarke County School District. For those of you who have not been through this exercise before, this is just a procedural matter since it's the unified government that collects taxes on behalf of both the unified government and the Clarke County School District.
I move to approve.
Do we need to suspend rules? Motion to suspend rules?
I apologize. First, a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
Got a motion to suspend the rules from Commissioner Neesmith. Got a second from Commissioner Davenport. All in favor?
Aye.
Now on to the substance of the tax collection. I'd entertain the earlier motion.
Sure. Yes. Move.
All right, a motion from Commissioner Neesmith.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Edwards. All in favor?
I got one discussion. I'm totally, like, this is something new. What exactly am I voting on again?
So Commissioner Thornton, as a mechanism the unified government collects the taxes that both flow to the unified government as well as the increment.
Can we get some order, please? Thank you. Thank you.
As well as the increment that flows to the Clarke County School District. So our millage rate is 13.9, and the school district's millage rate is 20. And so we collect both elements and then distribute it.
So it's just the collection part?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. That's right.
Nene?
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We will be collecting the property tax increment next year. All right, I need a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, everybody, for coming. We have a couple brief executive session items.
Hey, Kelly, we used to get